Everything is the fault of social grants. Social grants are evil and everything is their fault. They teach men how not to fish. They teach women how to use a man. They teach children poverty as a way of life. They don't help poor people. They help poor people stay poor. They teach you how to limit your life and be happy with scraps, to look at life as survival and not think about how you could thrive. Social grants are meant to keep you just above dead, alive yet not really living, able to eat yet never full, wanting more and never able to get it. It is not the job of social grants to get you going in life. It exists to help you stay right where you are right now, powerless, broke, poor until you die, never having lived out anything even close to your full potential. The social grant is not there to help you reach anything. The grant is there so that you do not bother reaching out at all, so that you do not think for yourself, so that you do not create for yourself, so that you never solve your own problems. Social grants is not a way to help you. They are there to always make sure that you need help. Let me make 5 points that'll help you see that everything can be tracked back to social grants. Point 1, learned helplessness. Look around and tell me that you do not see people who are waiting to be helped, people who are constantly asking for help, people who want someone to do something about their situations, someone to help them. Too many people in South Africa have learned to be helpless. They believe they need someone to come in and solve their issues. If only the government could get it right, things could start to go well. This is what they believe. They are helpless and in need, or so they believe themselves to be. What they do not see is the government has created a system, a trap, that they are in, a trap of learned helplessness. In this trap, they believe they need help and cannot do it themselves, that they need government and the government grant, because that is how they live, through this grant. So the trap has worked because they don't live. They are just above dead and cannot feed themselves. They think the government gives them money. The government does not have any money and they don't realize this.
What do you mean by that?
It can only give people money. It collects from people who are helping themselves, people with jobs and businesses. They are the people who pay for all the grants, and many of those people are white and Indian, which are the groups that get the fewest grants actually. 47% of South African people are living off social grants. 47% of our population is funded by grants to live day to day. Not because grants work, it is because they believe themselves to be helpless. That is what has happened to our country. They have learned exactly what the government wants them to be, helpless and desperate. Point 2, white sugar daddies and mommies. Is it not ironic that the ANC government keeps threatening people that if they lose the election in 2024, their social grants will be gone? The EFF keeps telling people to make more babies, and when they are in government, the social grant payment will be increased for all these babies. All while the child grant is the largest grant of all the social grants being handed out, and all social grants are 11% of the South African budget.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
So the South African government spends 11% of our budget handing out all sorts of grants, and the child grant is the biggest among them. These two political parties use the grant system to control people, to strike fear in them, and to push them to go to vote for them, when much of the taxes paid into SARS comes from white people. Said another way, all those black people and those black and brown babies being raised all over South Africa on some 530 Rand a month by some woman, many of those people get much of their money from white taxpayers, White men and white women are the sugar babies and sugar mommies for those grant babies. The grant system is funded to a great extent by white people. Is that also white monopoly capital, Julius Malema? We should look into that. The ANC and the EFF are shameless. They love, and I mean really love, they love to see people helpless and black families destroyed because some woman thinks that she can raise a kid on 530 Rand per month. That is maybe 27 loaves of sliced bread. Not even enough loaves to cover every single day of the month. In fact, the ANC and the EFF love how desperate people are when they are on the social grants, how they keep thinking that the ANC loves them and supports them, and how they cannot think for themselves because they are worried about money, food, and everything else. They are helpless in their own minds, these people on social grants, and are desperate for any amount from the government to only almost get through the month with 27 loaves of bread. To raise a child, a life of learned helplessness, desperation, and dysfunctionality, which they all pass on to their children, by the way, making desperate, dysfunctional citizens. That is what kind of person is on a social grant, just the way the ANC and the EFF like them. Remember not to forget that you can get access to our short course when you buy us a coffee on our Buy Me a Coffee page. The link is in the description. And if you become a member, you get access to the course, and every month we'll email you a digital comic book based on some of the things we talk about here on this channel. If you can't buy us a coffee or become a member, you can just join our mailing list and then you'll get one digital comic book. Back to the show. Point 3. Social grant divas. No one is more desperate and dysfunctional than the social grant diva. A diva, which is usually some sort of celebrated, accomplished woman with an ego, expensive taste, and full of drama. Well, in South Africa we have those. However, we also have their counterpart, the social grant diva, celebrated for having a child out of wedlock who will be raised in poverty, and just like her mother, will probably be dependent on that state for the rest of their lives. Yes, our social grant divas love to tell us, and the media loves to tell us, how accomplished they are by doing it all themselves, except for the 260 billion Rand in social grants, of course. Not to count the free schools, public hospitals, clinics, school feeding schemes, and so on. The services that the diva does not pay for, the taxpayer does. These government-run institutions may not be very good, obviously. However, how do those grant divas pay for them? They don't.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
These institutions are paid for by people who are helping themselves, people with jobs. All those institutions she gets for free, whether they're good or not. She doesn't pay for them. Someone does though. Money does get allocated to it. Plus they are also the grant diva's services. She depends on it. Without them, that 530 Rand is not going as far as it seems to go. She's being tricked and trapped all over again, and the trap just gets deeper and deeper. Grant divas are accomplished, apparently. That's what the media wants us to believe, and they want us to believe themselves, these divas. Nothing that they bring is outside of the realm of destruction. Everything they bring, the grant diva, is destruction. They are the worst people in our society, yet they still have the ego to call themselves the backbones of society. They are actually the thing that rots society from the inside out. A backbone that farms poverty, crime, and societal breakdown. This is what the government loves, because people like that are desperate and easy to control because they are incompetent. Thus, many carry on having expensive tastes, these grant divas do, which means new boyfriends, which means new babies that equal another 530 Rand, which the ANC is more than happy to give them because someone else is fitting that money Someone else is paying that money. It comes from someone else's salary, not Gueremandashes. When that money is delayed because the government has some sort of glitch, which they have at least once a year, and the social grants aren't paid, and there are long lines that go nowhere at those social grant ATMs. When they do not get the social grant money on time, the drama in the news because of it is intense, with reporters speaking about the grant divas' desperate plight, and interviews with grant divas who are happy to perform in front of the camera, of course, because they love the drama, telling us how hard things are for them and how poor they are, not forgetting how little food they have. Yeah, the backbone of society indeed. The grant diva is a drain on society, a person who thinks they are helpless, a desperate person who is a factory for dysfunction, a person with no direction. Point 4. Everything can be traced back to social grants. I put it to you that most South African problems can be traced back to social grants. They can be traced back to social grants in this way. The government starts to give out grants in 1994, right? Not because everything was falling apart and we were in some sort of famine, rather because they said they wanted to help the poor masses. Poor, intact, productive black families that are now free to engage in the free market because they are no longer limited by the fascist apartheid government, start to see women who have children for the social grant, meaning they do not marry and do not work. Then children begin to be raised with no father in black families for the first time. The ANC is keeping people passive with grants, so they see no need to create jobs. It is not like those people work anyway. Men struggle then to get jobs. Single men with no job are good candidates for crime. Young women who grow up poor see 530 Rand as good money and thus have children with men they are most attracted to, or men that are just available for that 530 Rand. With no intention of ever marrying, they have the child for the money and work to alienate whoever the child's father is out of that child's life so that they can live with their child and their 530 Rand. The child grows up with grandma and mom in a 530 Rand poverty because young girls who have children for 530 Rand are not good financial planners. Growing up in poverty with no father and a reckless incompetent for a mother creates anger, resentment, dysfunction in poor child. Growing up without a father leaves children to seek role models outside of the home. Boys find crime, girls find criminals to have babies with, because then the girls get 530 Rand and does not need to marry said criminal.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
If the children do not become either a criminal or single mother, they still have no father and thus are some of the least productive people in society. Add to that, they grew up watching no one go to work, so they have no role model for work ethic and no father to push them as fathers to go out there and reach their full potential, or at least just get a job. The ANC is not worried because the votes keep coming in, all the while handing out social grants for women who need them every single month. Those women's daughters keep voting because they have come of age and are also in need of their grant every month now, which is a great way for the ANC to keep black women voting for them. The more people who are desperate on grants every month, which is 26 million and counting, with 80% of grant recipients being women, is a good place for the ANC to be, or so they think. All the while society is falling apart. All the while the government feels less and less urgency and a need to get things right in this country. They believe their votes will always keep coming because they will rule until Jesus comes back because of these grant divas. People learn how to be helpless out of a society like this, living off social grants and do not fix things for themselves, and definitely are waiting for the wrong people to come and fix them, which is the ANC. A weak series of South African generations begins to be bred out of this, raised by grant divas who do not ever think of helping themselves or how to help themselves, and they cannot even think of how to resist this tyrannical government that keeps them down, because the government is the only father these children have ever known. It is the government that paid for their upbringing, for their underprivileged schools, their bad health facilities, their dusty sports grounds, and their porridge and juice at the school feeding scheme, leaving them stunted and limited in their future prospects and thinking. You could almost think the government was doing this on purpose. Don't even get me started on why they legalized marijuana. And if you see who is smoking marijuana in townships, you'd know exactly that they're trapping young men and weakening their minds. The social grant is evil and is at the root of evil for South Africa, and this cycle has been going on now for 30 years. You can trace the dysfunctional present in South Africa today, in many cases, right back to social grants. Try it for yourself. Don't forget to check out the links in the description. That'll give you access to a short course on our Buy Me a Coffee page and access to monthly digital comic books. If you want to join our mailing list, that link is in the description as well. So point 5, what is the alternative? We have seen that the South African government is not interested in getting rid of social grants. They just work to keep the population well enslaved. They have extended the 350 Rand unemployment grant till March 2025 instead of creating more jobs. They have raised the child grant so as to keep an incentive to most irresponsible behavior. I propose an alternative for getting South Africa out of the mess we are in as of 2024. A new way of looking at social aid for South Africans. I call it the Education and Training Grant. It is a grant available to all underprivileged South Africans. It is a grant in the form of a voucher to pay for some sort of training or qualification. Anything from finishing your matric to short courses, long courses, and university. Things that actually allow a person to get a skill, a trade, a certification, and so on. It comes with some money for daily expenses so you can live and get something for the home. You get the first education and training grant for free, and if you ever need it again, then it is a loan. It is administered by banks and financial institutions, plus the government will then collapse the grant system and NFSIS into this new scheme. Only disabled people and retirees can still qualify for social grants. The point is to build an education and skilled population who can do for themselves instead of running a grant system for government to focus on getting votes out of. This new scheme will actually be about getting people into life and into some work. What the government will then have to focus on is reducing red tape and not getting in people's way, so that the economy and private industry can create jobs for our population that is getting more and more educated and trained by the day through the education and training scheme. No more child grants and no more NFSIS. Only money for those who want to pursue their personal education and training. If someone has a child out of wedlock, they better get a skill. However, remember the education and training grant is for underprivileged people, and the first application is a grant and is free. If you need it thereafter, it is a loan, and we get rid of all social grants unless it is for the disabled and the retired people. We need educated and skilled people in this country, not more people who have learned how to be helpless. All charity should be handled by individuals, churches and other religious organizations, charities and the communities themselves. The government should get out of the charity business. The South African government should blame itself for going on for so long with the social grants. They have made nothing better and only serve to teach helplessness. I recommend an education and training grant instead as a new way of looking at it. Ronald Reagan said, "The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help." The case is closed, my friend. South Africa does not need social grants. We need to do for ourselves, and to do that, a good place to start is with education and training. Let me know what you think. Check out the links in the description, and if you dare, buy us a coffee.
TEACHABLE.